Now, the Western drug market in China is dominated by generic drugs, also with a relatively weak R&D capability. Patients with serious diseases still have difficulty in accessing the most innovative drugs that are available in the international markets. In terms of research and development of innovative drugs, where does China stand among its international counterparts?
Okay. Actually, our status of pharmaceutical company, pharmaceutical development in China as the only behave like a follower, because trace back to the history of drug development, actually New China been blocked by Western country for close to 30 years, and the new pharmaceutical business just restart after this reform period, just after 1978. So China gradually built up this modern manufacturing facilities and match with Western country standards like GMP. So at first, China focused on this manufacturing and then behave like a copycat, and there was no intellectual property protection before 1986. So China can do whatever they like to copy the Western countries' products without any hurdle. And then after 1993, and China and the US signed this intellectual protection treaty, and then the pharmaceutical sectors have to respect the international patent right, and then have to follow the rule of internationals, and have to wait and observe the development of the Western country in pharmaceutical sectors, and do generic development after the patent expire. So this tradition is just keep going up to today. So China realized this innovation is the key force, key strength in the future. So just catch up to do R&D, but let's take time to catch up with the Western country.
China has been catching up pretty fast. The statistics from the Nature Index indicate that essays and articles written by Chinese experts and published in the top international journal of life sciences have increased from some 4,000 in 2012 to 6,500 in 2015, only secondary to the United States. However, the application or commercialization of the academic and scientific outcome is relatively low. Why? And are there any best practices China can learn from other countries?
Yes, and that's true. Chinese scientific research publication has catch up with US, and list as the second largest publication, contribute to this scientific society. However, when we do analysis on the quality of these publications, the original discovery or the significant discovery or invention generated by Chinese scholars is still very rare. But however, just a month ago, on the cover page of Journal of Science, Chinese scholar generate 4 big pieces of paper showing this artificial synthesis of the chromosome. So that's you see this happened in China, in Chinese lab, as really did wonderful job to contribute to the basic science. So we are waiting for the miracle happened in near future, because we have already accumulated strength and a lot of data here in China, and the government support those research, and then can help this translational medicine, and eventually to convert this scientific discovery into invention and then produce the valuable drug to treat disease and heal the patient.
For more discussion about this topic, joining me in the studio is Mike Dethick, Managing Director of R&D-based Pharmaceutical Association Committee. Mike, thank you very much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you.
We heard Professor Xiao talking about China's weak R&D R&D capabilities, and even now patients with serious diseases having difficulty in accessing most innovative drugs that are available in the international markets. Why do you think China is lagging behind in this regard?
Okay, I personally think that lagging might not be the best description. I think it raises a lot of questions, and there's lots of different areas, all of which are interconnected. I think one of the fundamental principles is the need for China to develop and foster a drug innovation ecosystem. And creating the right type of environment and the right system for China. If we do that, that will address a lot of the issues in terms of access to innovative medicines.
What do you mean by an ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem?
I think when you look at all of the issues that the multinational pharmaceutical companies face and the domestic industry face and the reform agenda that the government is implementing, there are many interconnected issues, all of which need to work together. So you need to have a system, a reform system or a health system that encourages innovation. And that's a very easy thing to say, but ultimately it involves government top-down. It will involve a proper pricing and reimbursement system. It certainly includes making sure that there is access to innovative medicines. So there is a whole mechanism that works together that would facilitate better innovation within China. I think that's a priority for the government.
Well, considering the demographic structure and the diseases that have a high incidence rate among the Chinese people, what kind of a specific disease or product spectra would you recommend for the Chinese pharmaceutical business insiders and for the Chinese government in speeding up their R&D?
Sure. You know that in itself is a very sensitive and an emotive issue, because we are talking about factors that have impact on people's health. You look at demographics, the fact that China has an aging population. You look at urbanization, environmental issues. All of these actually impact on health and ultimately on medicine and the requirement to treat patients. Mm-hmm. I think within China, one of the significant areas that needs attention is non-communicable diseases. So we see higher rates of cancer, higher rates of diabetes, Alzheimer's. The problem will only, if it's not addressed, will only increase because the population is increasing. So it is in those areas that I think that we need to focus in developing or having the ability to drive innovation in medicine development.
Do you have the feeling, do you have the sense that this is being done at this moment, or is there any area where you see that can be sped up in terms of the kind of policy that are in place by the Chinese government?
It's important that the first thing, that innovative medicines are allowed access. Mm-hmm. That's one of the key drivers, market access, to bring innovation into China. But it's also about encouraging the development of innovation of medicine within China, within the biopharma industry. How we price and how we reimburse those medicines is going to be really, really important. Mm-hmm. So the factors of pricing and reimbursement, access, clinical trials and science have a huge part to play on developing new medicines. At the moment, there are bottlenecks. You describe them as bottlenecks that the government's fully aware of, and policies are being issued, and we're trying to develop the process. But what it causes is delay. So that it's a knock-on effect. If there's a delay in one area, even though there may be policy development in another, ultimately it may slow down the whole process. And you have to put it into the context of the development of new medicines. When you look at actually how long it takes to really produce a blockbuster new innovative medicines, 10 to 15 years, longer for China. If you look at the cost of developing, the investment that needs to go into developing a new medicine, in the 1970s, it was maybe 100 million US dollars. It's quadrupled. You know, we look at it, the cost today, 2010, it's something like 2.6 billion US dollars.
That is also one of the key areas where China is also having, at least for the moment, some difficulty. That is the commercialization, that is the application of the huge amount of academic and research work that the Chinese has been doing. I mean, we have been publishing a lot of papers in the international journals, secondary only to the United States. But why is it lagging behind? Please allow me to use that word again, and what needs to be done in the future.
Okay, so I think when you come to, first off, I think it's a positive signal. You know, that there is so much publications going on, and actively scientists are looking at it. And that's something that I think the government has been very proactive into encouraging research and encouraging scientists and actually the returnees, you know, educated abroad coming back to China for the future. I think in terms of why that doesn't translate into actual physical delivery
not yet,
and that's the point, you know. So it's a timing issue, I think, is first thing. Second thing, I think that perhaps in the past, and the difference between perhaps China and the US is that the US on their innovation will use new molecule models. So it's actually new technology, if that's the best descriptor. Whereas I think in China, when they've tried to develop a lot of the innovation, it's been based on existing knowledge. So there is a need to actually, when the government looks at investment, and to encourage the entrepreneurs to try and develop the new technology platforms for innovation.